LLC, Pest Geek Podcast, Living the Wildlife Podcast, Stephen M. Vantassel, or their or his affiliates are not responsible for followers' use of the information provided here. Hi everyone, Stephen Vantassel here, Wildlife Control Consultant, bringing you another episode of Living the Wildlife as part of the Pest Geek Podcast family. Glad to have you on board. Again, as always, I hope you've had a great week. I'm certainly glad that my week is pretty much finished. It's, been an interesting one, I guess, to say the least. What is it? The Chinese proverb curse, may you live in interesting times. Well, I can't say it was a curse, but it was certainly different, but I'm glad I've made it to the weekend. Hope you are too. I hope you're well. Hope your family's well, and that you have a little time to rest and relax over the weekend and prepare for the coming week. Can do me a favor, and that is make sure you subscribe to the channel so you can make sure you're updated with all the latest podcasts, as well as you can reach out to me at wildlifecontrolconsultant@gmail.com. That's wildlifecontrolconsultant@gmail.com. Love to hear from you, thoughts, concerns, ideas for future shows. And, if you know of someone that you think I should interview or perhaps discuss a topic with, would love to hear it. Sometimes I recently got a request from one individual and he was wanting a particular topic raised, and I said, why don't you come on the show and do it? But I guess people can be a little shy. So don't be shy. Definitely come on board. I don't bite people's heads off. I tend to be try to be a very gracious host. If I don't think your topic is worthwhile, you won't be on the show. Okay. So, I don't believe in gotcha journalism unless the person wants to come on and have a debate. I'm all for that. I think debates are definitely underutilized both in the academy and in industry, because we seem to be in a time of our world where all we want is sound bites, screaming at each other without any sense of, can we have a dialogue or debate where we have to answer each other's questions? And that's something that just isn't done as much as it should be anymore. But I digress. I'm working on a paper related to that anyways, for another topic. Nevertheless, you can reach me at wildlifecontrolconsultant@gmail.com, wildlifecontrolconsultant@gmail.com. Again, thoughts, concerns, praise, criticism. Would love to hear from you. And I don't spam. I don't have a newsletter going out. So I know sometimes people reach out to me on chat with Facebook. Yeah, I do respond. I'm not a big chat person per se on the private messaging thing with Facebook. So not my favorite way to go. Email really is the way to go, because I'm often on a different time zone than most of you folks anyways. So that gives me a little chance to reflect and type out an answer, because sometimes answers are a little bit more complicated than just a few words, and texting on a phone can be quite cumbersome for my fat fingers. So nevertheless, all right, well, this week I was like, not this week, but today I was looking at something and I was like, I was going to talk about one topic and then something else came up, and I thought, that would be an interesting topic. We're at the point of time. Today is the September 30th for me, 2022. And this is essentially the end of the third quarter of the year. So this is an important time of year for you as business owners. I would suspect that many of you have gone through the majority of the income you're going to get for the year. And that doesn't mean you're not going to continue making income till the end of the year. I'm not suggesting that. I've heard reports from people that they're busy literally year round. There is no quote unquote slow time. It's just, balls to the walls and then steady, but there is no slow. And that, there's certainly parts of the country where that can be the case. However, the fact of the matter is we have 3/4 of the year done. So the majority of your income, at least as for in terms of time, should be done by now. So this is an opportunity for you to reflect on your business. And I would just want to come out with a few ideas here before I get to the main topic. And that is, you want to be thinking about what sort of supplies that you're going to need to have for the next year. You want to be maybe talking to your accountant and asking, do you need to be looking at putting some money away for your retirement, because you're going to have to use cash for that. You can't just credit card it, right? So you want to be thinking about what types of training events that you want to maybe go to next year. Where is your business going? What do you want to do for the remainder of this year? Is there some expenses that you need to cut? Is there some sort of new plan that you're going to have? You want to sit back and think about what you're doing with your company. What worked? What didn't work? If you have employees, perhaps have a little conversation with them. Maybe, give them an incentive to come up with ideas saying, what are some ways that we can increase revenue for the business or reduce cost? And you might be surprised at some of the answers that you get. But this is certainly going to be a time for you to reflect about what's worked, what hasn't worked. Maybe there's a part of your service area that's just not that profitable. Maybe you need to carve that off and give that to somebody else. Are there clients that you may need to fire? Do you need to flag them? How's your record keeping going? I mean, I'm hitting you with a lot here, but I hope you have a few ideas on some major things for you to think about. So let's break it down. So sales, where have your sales gone well? Where have they not gone well? And so look at how you would want to break down your business. Is your repairs? Is there a particular species that's your number one animal? Is that number one animal profitable for you? Is there another animal where you're actually making a larger profit margin? Is there a part of your service area that generates the most revenue for you? Should you be working harder in that area, or have you maxed that area out? Is there a new area that you may want to think about expanding? Do you need to be thinking about bonuses for employees? Maybe a bonus for yourself. Are you putting enough money away for retirement? With the market crashing, I'm not an investment advisor. I do a fair amount of reading in the investment world, learning about the investment world. Certainly, it is. If you're going to get into the stock market, it's certainly better to get into the stock market when it's crashing than when it's high. Okay. So it's sort of like, if you're going to buy a car, is it better to buy the car at a lower price or a higher price? Well, I would think a lower price. Well, that's some of these stocks, not all stocks. Some of the stocks are still high, but is the stock making money? Talk to your investment advisor about it. But what are you going to do for your retirement? And so have you carved money out to make sure that it's getting into your retirement so you don't spend it on toys? Work on your business rather than your business running you. And that's certainly a mistake that I made when I was self-employed. And so basically, this is one of those times, don't do as I do as I say, right? So you want to make sure you learn from the mistakes that I made when I was in business, that I should have spent more time focusing on what worked and what didn't work. Is there some reading that you need to do? Is there another podcast that maybe you need to be listening to? And I hope you're going to continue listening to ours, but nevertheless, there may be some things that you need to explore out into. Is there a new type of business service that you need to offer? Should you maybe be thinking about hiring a secretary? That was the first person that I hired. I wanted to have someone who could do the paperwork for me so that I could spend more time out in the field generating revenue. Maybe that's where you're at. Maybe you're working and you're coming home and you're like, I got to fill out the paperwork. Maybe you're at a place where you need to have to put that off to somebody else. Maybe, maybe someone in your church or community group or a neighbor or something else. So those are some things you want to be thinking about. How can you make more money? Because remember, the reason why we hire people is to make more money. You don't hire people as a jobs program. You're hiring if you can't make money off of hiring someone, then you shouldn't hire them. All right. So think about that. Should you be looking at streamlining your program? Should you standardize some of your operations so that if you ever got to the point where you needed to hire someone? Again, these are all things you should think about. I just want you to think about the fact that you're at the 3/4 of the way through the year. 3 months to go. We have holidays in there. We have Thanksgiving, you have Christmas, and that's going to consume a lot of your time and energy, parties that you may be going to. Now is really a good time for you to reflect on your business and say, how do I want to end this year? And how do I want to plan for next year? And do you have enough for your retirement? Do you need to be thinking about creating standard operating procedures? Should you be looking at how you can cut costs and expenses to increase your bottom line? This is a good time to do some of that reflection. So I'll put that out to you right there. That wasn't the main part of my talk, so I hope they gave you food for thought. So I did want to talk about a particular supply house. You know, one of the things in wildlife control is that there are these niche businesses that have products and services that the big boys may not have for you. And I thought of one. This is an individual that I had some work with in the past when I was at the University of Nebraska. I'm not making any money about spotlighting this company. He didn't ask me to spotlight his business. I just figured, you know, this is a guy who certainly treated me well. He helped me with some research that I was doing. I can't say that I was really a customer of his, but he certainly helped me in the research, and so I found him to be very responsible. So I just visited his website and wanted you to make you aware of this, because he does have some products that, you know, may be a bit unusual, and it might be someone that you might need to buy some supplies for if you need them. So the company name is Fields Development and Supply. And so here are his products. So let's go to his main, we'll try to get to his main product page here. Oops, let me put that back out again. Get down here and let's get to his home page. I was sort of checking some things out. So here we get to his home page, and here we have his raccoon. There's a great shot of a raccoon. And so here are the featured products that he has. Again, this is Fields Development and Supply. So Fields Dev Supply, for those of you able to look in the upper right-hand corner here. And notice what he has. He has bird guards and rodent guards. He has deodorizing products, and then bird vent covers. So he does kind of some screening things that are kind of boutique. And unlike other things, he has, some of them are metal. So he has the plastic ones over here that you may be familiar. You may go to Home Depot or something and get some of these. But he also has metal ones, and you know, and you say, well, I don't want things that are rusting. Okay, he has galvanized and stainless steel, which is pretty impressive. Okay, so let's take a look. And then he finally has this other product here, which is a trigger syringe pearl. So I'm going to point out a few things that he has going on here that he has featured. So let's take a look at what he has in terms of his offerings. So these bird vent covers, these are things that are put over vents. Now you always want to be very careful about putting them over exhaust vents for dryers, okay? So that can be a very dangerous thing, and so you need to make sure you check your codes in your area. However, there are plenty of other vents in the house that don't generate lint. Maybe the exhaust vent for your showers and some other maybe non-moisture areas that don't have all the particle matter that's coming out of a dryer. See, the challenge, for those of you who don't know, the challenge with dryer vents is that some of the lint gets through, and if you have a screen over the end, it can collect over time, causing increased heat inside of the dryer, which can do one of two things. The best scenario is it burns out the temperature gauge, which causes the dryer to stop working. That's a good outcome, okay, if you call that good. The worst outcome is it starts a fire. And so a lot of fires that occur in houses occur with dryers. And part of the problem is that lint builds up in that tube, creating too much heat, and then it catches on fire, and then you burn the house down. You certainly don't want to be doing that. So definitely look into this. But for other types of vents, you have galvanized and stainless steel, and this is something where you really want to take up some of your exclusion work. And notice they're pretty well made. They have a little clean out area here, which is kind of neat. And so these are some things that you may want to look into. He also creates nose cones. So these are excluders that are used. Sometimes you can put a trap over the end of this. And so these are some one-way doors. You may have seen them at some Tomahawk Live traps. And notice the prices on these are pretty good. Now notice this one, it says one-way gravity door, no spring. So if you're looking for a one with a spring, you're going to either need to add it yourself or purchase one with a spring. That can certainly make a difference. Here's another one-way door. Nose cones, they're sometimes called. That's certainly how they're designed. Looks like they're pretty sharp there and certainly not very expensive. And then, of course, the spiral nest removal that you can get as well. So that's an interesting product. Well, let's take a look at some of those. We saw some bird control supplies. How about some nuisance control supplies? He has some critter-proof bait baskets. Now, I have a whole course on the theory of baiting that's available at Udemy. That's Udemy. That's a several-hour course on baiting. Excuse me, not several hours, probably about an hour and 20 minutes, hour and 15 minutes. But it's multi-class, talking about bait theory. So we can always talk about things where it's what type of bait do you use in terms of the ingredients, and that's important, but that wasn't the topic of my presentation. It was about presentation in the bait theory, about how you can use any bait. Because if I took peanut butter or marmalade or strawberry jam, there's different ways to present bait to an animal rather than just simply relying on the odorous smell of it. So critter-proof baskets can be one way to present that bait in a different way, to make it look a little different for that animal when he's coming into that particular cage. So he has several, he has those. Then we can come down to the area of squirrel control. And here's something, he has what's called a squirrel trap mounting hook. So this is kind of neat. If you're using a 5x5 by, I think it's a 12-inch trap, believe it or not, I've caught squirrels with those traps from Massachusetts. They were awesome because you could pile up. Squirrels were my number one animal. And you could pile up those traps in the back of your truck. So you could do a lot of trapping work. We had Massachusetts. We couldn't use a lot of your lethal traps because they were banned by the animal rights groups. That's why some of you out there need to be getting involved in your state associations. I've already done a podcast on that. But here's a way you can sort of set your trap in a gutter and anchor it there in place without putting any screws into the roof at all. Pretty nifty stuff, something for you to think about. And definitely you can say these are not expensive products at all. Here he has aluminum gutter hooks. This is another option for you to keep the trap in place, stabilized. Again, these are pretty small traps and definitely can be dynamite on your gray squirrels, and I suspect your fox squirrels as well. So something you may want to check out that you haven't seen somewhere else. We've already talked about nose cones. Then we have over-under one-way door traps. So isn't that kind of cool? I have not seen that before. So this is over-under one-way door traps. So this is where you're catching a squirrel that comes out of the building, and then you have another option to catch a squirrel that is outside the building and catch them that way. So quite clever indeed. Again, price is not that expensive, so certainly something to sort of help you become more efficient in terms of your capture techniques. So I'm quite impressed, and I believe because he creates a lot of these products on his own, if you have a need for something, maybe a special design, I think that Mr. Fields would be happy to talk to you about that and to create a product that you need, something that you can talk to. This is one of the advantages you can have with some of your smaller manufacturers, is their ability to create items to spec, where you wouldn't necessarily be able to get that with a major company because there's too much volume that they're dealing with. They don't have the capacity or time or financial interest. In other words, it's just too small for them to get. This is one of the challenges of getting big. You try to make a lot of money being big, but it also means that you lose those opportunities for some of those niche markets because you just can't grind everything to how it's going to cost you too much money. Oh, that's my firefighting thing again. All right, so that is a very clever thing here for you to look at, this over-under one-way door traps. Fascinating, to be sure. He also has various covers. He has hat vent covers. These are, certainly I'm a big fan of stainless steel chimney cap covers, and high C. I'm kind of partial to those, but you may be in situations where you just don't want to have those more expensive items. Maybe your client is a little bit financially stressed, and they maybe not need a stainless steel situation. Maybe galvanized steel would be enough. Maybe just vinyl coated would be sufficient. Certainly a significant drop in cost, and these have various sizes that you can use as well and still get a fair amount of years out of it. Maybe it's for outbuildings where, maybe you don't want a cap or a screen cover that's going to last longer than the building, right? So that would be kind of silly. But these are some things for you to definitely look at in terms of giving you options there. We have exhaust vent covers. We've already looked at some of those. And then, of course, as I scroll down here, we can go to specialty covers. And here he has some additional ones here. Here he's got covers for eaves, protecting flat covers. He has clean outdoor areas, vent covers with solid construction. And then he's got custom vertical bird cover with clean outdoors, custom horizontal bird vent covers. And so these are for exhaust vents, perhaps for a stove or something. Again, these are all things that are custom made. And again, custom made to order, phone orders only. You can give him a call and have dimensions made according to the specs that you need. I mean, what other industry can you kind of get some of that level of service? And certainly, I don't think his prices here are that outrageous, right? So, I mean, I don't think he's certainly not gouging to get this done for you, which is always a blessing. So he has some colony traps, which is so here he has a colony trap, something that's for muskrat and things. You may have can probably use it for other species as well. And then he has, let's see what else he's got here. Winged door, one-way door, nose cone, squirrel control. And that is about it. So he's based in Central Ohio. There's his phone number. His phone number is 614-835-0878. I'll repeat that for you. 614-835-0878. And you can drop him an email at FDS, Fields Development and Supply. At FDS, the three letters there, at fieldsdevsupply.com. That's fields, like the field in your backyard. Fields, but with an S. Fields, dev, D-E-V, supply, SUPPLY.com. And that's how you can check out this website here. So I hope that gives you something to think about. Perhaps you might find something that you find useful. One thing that I didn't talk about, that was his odor management products. There's a variety of skunk deodorizing products out there. I can't speak to these particular items in terms of their effectiveness. I have a publication on skunk deodorizing. But I was a little intrigued here at the top where it says they're biodegradable, non-toxic, non-irritating, and it contains no bacteria, enzymes, or oxidizers. Now, oxidizers is kind of important because those are things that can stain. I don't know how well this works. However, you may find that it works for you, and maybe something that maybe you want to have him buy a sample of one of these and have him toss it into your order and try it out. You may find it's something that's useful in your situation. I'd love feedback on it if you find that it's effective. And of course, he has some cat odor stuff and some dog odor materials as well. So again, just other things you can put in your toolbox. And so it's going to be important for you to recognize that you may want to be looking at multiple lines of dealers And this is one dealer that may be able to supply certain products for you, or maybe replace products you're purchasing from somewhere else. I don't know. But I think it's always a good idea to keep an eye out and see what is available. Where else can you get it? Look at your supply chain. And is there someplace else better to get something, or maybe have something manufactured for yourself? This might be a company for you to check out. Fields Development and Supply. Definitely something you might want to check out for your own business if you're not familiar with it. All right, well, that takes care of us for today. So again, I'm Stephen Vantassel. You've been listening to Living the Wildlife. Again, do take a few moments, if you would, to subscribe to the channel. Tell me how things are going at wildlifecontrolconsultant@gmail.com, wildlifecontrolconsultant@gmail.com. Do take some time, visit us over on Facebook with the Pest Geek Podcast family. We're glad to have you there. Talk about your trials, triumphs, and just some general stressors and things you want to just ask our group. And then, of course, you can reach me at wildlifecontrolconsultant@gmail.com. Subscribe to the channel, and we'd love to hear from you. You've been listening to Living the Wildlife, and you may say, why do we call it Living the Wildlife? Well, we call it Living the Wildlife because we want you to live the wildlife, not be the wildlife. Take care, everybody.